Hello, everybody. It's Fiona Lukeis here for my first Friday live of 2023. Where are we? We are in January 13th, Friday the 13th. Okay, some of you might think that is depending on your belief systems, an unlucky number. I've always been a fan of the number 13. I was born on the 13th day of the month. So it's Friday the 13th of January, 2023. So I have just been back at work. I had 2 weeks of leave over the Christmas break and have just come back to work this week, which has been lovely, catching up with clients, catching up with the students in my Relatable program, connecting in with everybody, which was wonderful. I had a lovely break with my family, and summer has well and truly hit in Melbourne, which is also a wonderful thing. So it's nice and hot and sunny here, which is one of my favorite times of the year. So I know that I was scheduled to be live with you at 12:30 my time, and it's now 10 past 1. Obviously this week I've had lots of clients and other things to catch up on, and I've been a little chasing my tail a little bit today. So anyway, but I want to wish you all a warm welcome to my first live for this year. This, for those of you who are new to me or these lives, I run these every Friday. And this is your opportunity, if you have a question, to ask me a question, and I will do whatever I can to answer that for you. Hopefully what you find with what I'm sharing is a fresh take at how we can show up in our relationships, a breath of fresh air around the way we approach things, and a different way of relating to our own innate humanness. So I'm a big fan of the simplicity of life, and that there is always a simple answer to anything and everything, and that when we look in the direction of simplicity, life is much, 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 much easier. So if you've just joined in, please feel free to say hi. I always love to know where people are listening from. And hey, Jason, hi. Thanks for saying hi. Nice to hear from you. I hope you had a nice Christmas and New Year. And hey, Kev, nice to see you as always. So thank you so much for saying hi. Anyone else out there who wants to say hi, please feel free to do so. Generally on these Facebook lives, I tend to talk about whether there's been a theme of things that have shown up for me during the week in my client work or with my students, and obviously answer any questions that have been emailed into me prior, or answer any questions that you might bring to the live. So if you do have a question you want to ask, feel free to pop it in the comments section. Hey, Roz, thanks for saying hi, honey. Nice to see you. Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to anybody else. I think I can still say that. We're not quite at the 15th of January. I think it gets a bit old then, but so Happy New Year to everybody who's listening. And if you've just found me over the New Year period, which I know a few people have, and this is your first Facebook Live, welcome aboard. I truly hope that you hear something that's of benefit to you. I know this is a time of year where people can get really stuck. It's a time of year where people are often reassessing things, right? We have a tendency to reassess things, us humans, when we get to a new year, and we tend to look at our lives and look at what we're experiencing and where our lives are going, and we tend to ask ourselves different questions, which is always a good thing. Different questions create different reflection points. Different questions have us with fresh thinking around something, which in my mind is the only leverage point for change: fresh thinking and insight. And, when you have a true appreciation of fresh thinking and insight, that's the space you look for the answers, rather than your concern and your worry and your rules and your regulations and the rigidity which many, many people inadvertently and innocently find themselves living their lives by. Now, these things have a massive impact on our relationships. People who are more rigidly attached to their thinking, so people who are more married to their thinking, suffer far, far more greatly than people who are less married to their thinking. Okay. And so, in relationships, when we are married to our thinking, we tend to become very controlling. We struggle to listen to someone else's point of view. We tend to lead with our insecurities, and we tend to find it much more difficult to get over ourselves and for there to be any kind of flexibility. You need, in order to have a great relationship with anybody, you've got to know how to get over yourself. You have to know when you're leading with your insecurities. And that's okay. Everybody's got insecurities, right? I've got them. Everyone's got them. It's a natural, normal part of being human. And so, when you actually know yourself super well, when you're comfortable in your own skin, it becomes really obvious to you when you're leading with your insecurities. It becomes obvious to you when you're being overly rigid. And so all of a sudden you've got more choice on how you want to show up and what you want to bring to the table and the way with which you approach decisions and all of those sorts of things. So I wanted to bring that up today because this has come up a little bit this week. Okay. And I also had someone send me a question earlier about whether one person can make a change in a relationship, which I'm going to speak to in a minute, because that is also a question that has come up a few times this week. So if you've just tuned in, please feel free to say hi. This is my first Facebook Live for 2023. And if you've got a question, post it below, but let me know where you're listening from. I always like to know where people are and whether this is a good time zone for me to be doing these lives from. So as I was just saying, when we are married to our thinking, so in other words, when we think every thought in our head is correct, true, and absolute, that's when we're married to our thinking. When we don't question it, life becomes much harder. It's harder for us to be flexible. It's harder for us to let things go. We tend to cycle around and around and around the same thing. Our thinking speeds up. And that's when we can get very, very, very stuck. It can feel like a broken record. And if you're someone listening, it feels like you find yourself in the same space again and again and again and again. If you find yourself coming back to the same point within yourself, whether it be a pattern that occurs in your life around relationships, whether it be a pattern of a feeling that you keep experiencing, whether it be a feeling of the fact that you just are kind of coming up against the same thing, right? A big reason why you're doing that is because you are married to your thinking. Okay? A big reason why you're doing that is because you're married to your thinking. And this is where the power of having a different relationship with your thinking cannot be overestimated. It's the most amazing thing. As your relationship, so listen to what I'm saying, as your relationship with your thinking, not your thinking changing, but your relationship with it, that's where the power lies. As your relationship with your thinking changes, your whole experience of life changes. Your level of well-being shifts. Your mind clears. You get access to clarity of mind. It becomes a lot easier to know what the next decision is. You don't bounce around so much. So this is something I've seen a bit this week, okay? People bouncing. They're like a basketball. Bounce, 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 bounce. So what do I mean by that when you're bouncing? What I mean by that is you might be thinking about something and thinking, what do I do about this situation? And you might get this moment where you feel like you know what you're going to do. Oh, I'm going to tell this person this, or I'm going to decide this, or I'm choosing this. And then you make that decision and then you get another thought. Oh, but what about X? And you bounce. Oh, but what about Y? Oh, but if I do that, that might happen. That is an example of someone bouncing. Okay. So you get this moment where you go, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then the next thought is, oh, but what about? What if? If I do that, that might. Right? That's an example of someone bouncing and then you just get stuck because you're not sure which way to go. You second guess yourself. You second guess a lot of things and you bounce and you get stuck. And then you go round and around and around and around and around and around and around in your head. I see this as a pandemic out there in the world at the moment. It truly is. People going around and around and around and they're bouncing. Now, if you're doing that, that's because you don't what you need and want is clarity of mind. And you might be sitting there going, but I know that, Fiona. I know I want clarity of mind. I know I need clarity of mind. How do I get it? Right? How do I get that? The way that you access clarity of mind is by understanding how we work as human beings. Right? Understanding how things work, the psychological functioning of a human being, the nature of being human, how we work, truly how we work, not how we think we work, but how we actually work. And then, when you understand the way something works, you work with it, not against it. So many of us are inadvertently working against ourselves. We're trying to fix our thinking, trying to change our thinking. We're going back into the past and reliving things over and over again, thinking the answer lies right there. instead of working with the now, which is where fresh thinking lies, which is where insight lies, which is where we get that lightness of spirit, lightness, a lightness mentally and emotionally. Now, you might hear me using these words and going, what on earth does this have to do with relationships? It has everything to do with relationships. It's harder for us to get over something when our minds are full. It's harder for us to put the past down when we're bouncing. It's harder for us to move forward from an empowered place when we don't have clarity, because we're second guessing ourselves and we're going round and round and round and round and we get stuck. And when our mind speeds up, okay, we are quicker to judge. We are less patient, okay? We become very impatient. Our energy isn't one that's open. We become a lot more closed and rigid and stuck. All of these things make relationships much harder. And all of these things have us doubt ourselves. Okay? So your relationship with your thinking and you understanding how we work is critically crucial. I cannot tell you how important it is. And so I just want to speak to the question that's been sent in to me. And if you've just joined in, feel free to say hi. I've seen your question, Aaron, but I'll come back to that in a second. Hey, Lise, nice to hear from you. Thank you so much for saying hi. Anyone else who's just joined in, feel free to say hi. I'm just going to read out the question that was sent to me. 1 second. Hi, Fiona. I've been wondering lately if a marriage can be helped by just one person working on themselves. It obviously doesn't remove the problems in the marriage, but I wonder, would it be enough to help the underlying things be resolved when one person is feeling more capable and clear? My answer to that, and I think this is a great question, I'm so glad that you are asking yourself that question. I would say yes, 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 every single day of the week, right? When we have a different understanding, we project different things out into the world. Our entire energy changes. Now, remember, and I know some of you have heard me say this before, but this is so fundamentally important. We are always engaging energetically before we are physically, mentally, right? And we're often how we are engaging is our biggest blind spot. Okay? Now, if you don't know where you are, you can innocently be creating the same thing over and over again, even though you might be trying really hard. So, the great thing about someone being prepared to look at themselves means that there's this wonderful opportunity for one person, and we are far more powerful and we have far more influence than we can ever truly appreciate, right? To actually make a difference. And we don't know what we're capable of when our mind is clear. Truly, we don't. This is one of those things that you have to experience to understand. People try and imagine it from a place where their mind is not clear, and you can't. You have to experience it. Clarity of mind is the most amazing feeling. It gives you this incredible capacity to move through life from a place of empowerment. When we feel empowered, we make better choices for ourselves all around, from a health perspective, from an emotional perspective, from a financial perspective, on so many levels. We make better choices because our mind is clear. I value having a clear mind far more than I do over how much money I have in the bank, would you believe? I value being fresh thinking way more than I do my concern, worry, and upset, because I know that's where the answer lies. I know the difference between when I'm in my ego mind and I'm connected to something else. And I have developed that relationship over time because that is what enables me to show up to life the way I really want to. Does it mean I get it right all the time? No, and I'm not even trying to. Okay. I am still fallible and human and as susceptible to my own frailties as anybody else. But the difference is I'm not frightened of them. Okay. I know when I'm leading with my frailties and when I'm not. I know how to navigate my way through them. Now, if you know how to navigate your way through your own frailties, you'll navigate through somebody else's with so much ease, right? And these are the things that I see causing massive issues in relationships. People don't know how to navigate their way through their own frailties. People don't know how to get over themselves. If one person just learns how to do that, that will have an incredible impact on the people around them. And I see this happen again and again and again and again and again and again and again. So, my answer to that question, which I think is a great question, is yes, yes, yes. One person has the power to make a massive change. And the thing you want to as well, you want to understand as well, is that, like you've said here, if one person's working on themselves, it obviously doesn't remove the problems. Potentially it does. And you want to know why? Because as your understanding of how we work changes, as you start looking in a different direction, as you become more comfortable in your own skin, the things that look like problems stop looking like problems. They look like something else. Your problems do not look like the same problems, believe it or not. Believe it or not. I was actually just speaking to someone this morning, and she said to me, Fiona, she's a student in my Relatable program. And she said, Fiona, the more I look in this direction, I used to think that the way I was today had a massive, that it was all because of my upbringing and my past. But she said, the more I understand this, the more I see how irrelevant that is, that it's got nothing to do with it. And she said, that is so freeing. Yes, it is. Shit is so freeing. Now, the lighter you feel, the more emotional freedom you experience. Guess what? You are more generous of heart, generous of soul, generous of spirit. Now, you show up from that generosity. Guess what? You create amazing levels of goodwill. You bring compassion instead of judgment. You bring understanding and kindness. And you're also able to move forward from a situation without the fear, right? Many of us get stuck in these cyclical patterns because we're scared to move forward. We're frightened of the unknown. This starts to change as well. You start trusting in the unknown. So you make choices that are better for you because they're not based in a place of fear and disempowerment, right? You're able to put something down. You're able to stay in your own lane. People who are really good at staying in their own lane actually find life so much easier to navigate because they don't carry things that don't belong to them and they don't project their stuff onto others. You do that stuff really well, your relationships become infinitely easier. And in fact, life itself becomes infinitely easier. So many times it looks like in order to be great at relationships, you have to you have to be aware of everyone else's needs, and you've got to know what's going on with another person at all times. No, it's more about you being clean and clear and home, because that radiates out everywhere, than it is about anything else. I just want to check in. Is this making sense to those of you who are listening? I know I'm kind of speaking in a high chunk level. I get that. And there might be some of you going, hang on, I want some detail here. But it's important for you to see the overall picture of what I'm creating first. Okay. So I just want to check in. Is this making sense? What I'm saying? Is it resonating on any level at all? It's okay if it's not. Let me know and I'll see if I can explain it in a different way. Okay, now whilst I'm just checking in here, or waiting for people to kind of respond to me, hey Andrew, nice to see you. Hi, hello, happy New Year. Hey Deezer, honey, lovely to hear from you. Hi Mandy, thanks for saying hi. Hi, hi, hi. Aaron, how do men 45 or older find a woman in their 30s to maybe one day have a family? I'm finding becoming single this age hard. Look, that's a great question. I guess, and I don't know your age, Aaron, and I hear you saying that you want to have a family. I guess that's one of those things that you you have to be patient with, and you have to also be okay with the fact that and I think this is the best place in which to navigate anything from, quite frankly, is you've got to be okay with what is and operating from that space first and foremost, because when we're operating from a place of this has to happen and I need to do this, and we've got this kind of fear around it or intensity around it, we tend to approach the situation not from our best self. Okay, we tend to approach it from a place of being quite loaded, and it's hard, things are a lot harder when we approach things when we're quite loaded. So you've got to be able to approach something from a place of neutrality within yourself, because then when you're with someone, you've got space to find out what's there, instead of the other person can feel your urgency, your intensity, or whatever, and it can have the opposite effect on something. That capacity to come from a place of knowing, look, it'd be great if it happened and I'm okay if it doesn't, is a very, very powerful place to create anything from. All right, so I will say that. And you've just got to be patient. Not everyone in their 30s, some people in their 30s are looking for people their age. There'll definitely be someone out there who's looking for someone a bit older. I'm sure there are. Just got to keep showing up, showing up, showing up, but don't do it when you're really loaded, because you will have the opposite effect. You'll push people away. Okay, this is what we do when we're loaded. We push people away, or we create the opposite of what we're actually wanting to create. Okay. Hey, Sarah. 100% Fiona, as a woman aged 35, putting the pressure from the other side, I've made some stupid relationship decisions, all easy to recognize in hindsight. It's trusting the universe and knowing it'll happen at the right time. Yes, there has to be, and this is all about the way you partner with life. Okay, very important. As many of you have heard me say, and for some of you who may not have heard this before, the relationships are about 3 key areas, right? They really are. They're not just about your relationship with other people. They're about 3 key areas. Now, the number 1 key area is your relationship with you, because your relationship with everything depends on that, right? And this is often the thing that people overlook. The other one is your relationship with life. If you don't have a great relationship with life, you will struggle to let things go. You will tend to come from a place of fear and worry, and you will approach things from a very loaded place. So these 2 things, your relationship with you and your relationship with life, absolutely have a massive impact on the third one, which is your relationship with others. Now, these 3 relationships are the basis for your level of well-being, how we approach life, the decisions we make, the level of success we have, everything. They are the foundation of everything. If you think about it, everything comes back to those 3 things. So I'm going to say to you, if you are someone who's listening to this and you can see that there's an area here that you don't have a great relationship in, you need to do something about that, right? You need to do something about that, because if you don't have a great relationship with you, you absolutely need to do something about that. Otherwise, you're just going to repeat, 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 right? And you're going to why you keep doing the same thing over and over again, because we oh, okay. Sorry, I think my internet just dropped out. Can anybody hear me? Just let me know if anyone can hear me. That'd be great. I think I lost my internet. If you could post in the comments whether you can hear me or not, that would be great, because I think my internet just dropped out. This is a problem. It's school holidays, and I've got kids at home who are using the internet, and I think it all just overloaded. So sorry about that, everybody. I'm back. Okay, great. Yeah, I've got I've got children on devices at home, and I think the whole thing just overloaded. So yeah, so I was saying, right? Thanks for letting me know, everyone. Much appreciated. These are the three things, okay? And you've got to be prepared, okay, to acknowledge within yourself, am I clear in these three areas? My relationship with me, my relationship with life. Do I trust things to work out or not? And if I don't, you need to do something about that. Okay. Because that's going to influence your ability to try new things, to let things go, to move forward. Right. Truly, it will. And these two things absolutely impact your relationship with others. It's not just about working on your communication, right? Can you see what I'm saying? Working on your communication when you have a poor relationship with you and life won't help you. It just won't, because you'll come back to those two things will get in the way. And so that will affect how you communicate. Communication is an expression of those two things. See that? So I guess, I really want to point this out because I think these are the things that we don't acknowledge enough. It's not just about how we are with others. It's how we are with ourselves in life. How do I move through life on a day-to-day level? That will absolutely impact how I listen, whether I'm prepared to try new things, how present I am, my ability to let something go, my ability to get over myself. Like, you got to be good at this stuff if you want to do relationships well. Okay. These are things that are really important. And I can tell you right now, the biggest thing people struggle with is they don't know how to get over themselves. Okay. Don't know how to get over themselves. And look, I as many of you know who've been following me for a little while and listening, I had no idea. I was terrible at it. Okay. So if that's you, it's okay, because it's really common and normal. I was terrible at it. I had a terrible, I was a terrible listener, right? I was always listening to me rather than the other person. I was not present. I was not present. I was very reactionary and impatient because my mind was going so fast. Now, these are things that have completely changed for me. And guess what? My marriage is better than it's ever been, because my marriage and how I show up to that is a reflection of those things. You have to be brave enough, okay, to look inside yourself and say, yeah, I don't do that so great. And I need to do something about that, okay? Because in my mind, and this is why I'm so passionate about this is why I show up live to you guys and I do these things, because these are the missing pieces. And the quality of your relationships really does impact the quality of your entire life. So, like, if you're talking about something that impacts everything, why would you not want to be good at that stuff? Why would you not want to know everything you can? Okay. Now, anyone can be good at this stuff. I really want to say that. I think a lot of people think that they can't do it, that they're the exception. There's no exception to this. Anyone can do this. You just got to have an open mind. You've got to be patient. And you have to be willing to go places that often a lot of people aren't prepared to go. And that's okay. But the rewards on the other side of that are incredible. Truly. And you don't have to psychoanalyze your past. You don't have to psychoanalyze yourself. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to learn an understanding about how we work, and we all work the same way. And when you have that understanding in your life becomes infinitely easier, right? I know how to navigate my thinking now. You know what the impact of that is in my life? I'm much calmer. I've got more bandwidth. Now, when I've got more bandwidth, guess what happens? I show up to my kids, my family, my husband differently because I've got bandwidth. I'm able to take myself less seriously. I hold myself lightly. I'm a lot more playful. I'm a lot more curious. I'm a lot more joyful. Now think about it for a second, okay? Just think about it for a second. Where are you in the scale of that? Are you playful? Are you joyful? Do you hold yourself lightly, or do you take yourself very, very, very seriously? And do you take life very, very, very seriously? If you do, you might want to think about changing that. because that just ripples out everywhere and it impacts everything far more than people understand. I mean, if you were to learn and have this understanding in your life, and at the very least, you felt calmer, curious, joyful, you're able to let things go, you could be present and grounded, would that not be worth it? Having that feeling and that experience, would that not be worth having in your life? Like to me, it's a no brainer. I know many people come here because you want to fix a relationship, right? But you got to start there, and from there, through that lens, when you're in that space, now take another look at the relationship. Then you're really going to see what is truly on offer. Until we're able to get to that point, we don't really know what's on offer. We don't know what we're capable of. We don't know what the relationship is capable of. These are things we don't know because we are continuously, right, cycling through our own insecurities and the other person's, taking everything personally, getting stuck in our rules and our shoulds and our regulations about the way life should be, the way someone else should be. We become controlling. When you're in that state, okay, and we've all been there, all right? I'm gonna do a bit of an assumption and a mind read now. Every single person on this live chat right now has had that experience at one form or another because it's inherently human. We've all been there, but you don't want to live there, right? Because it really sucks, doesn't feel good, and you don't actually show up to life the way you really want to. And I'm going to presume every person on this call knows that there is a way that they can really show up, a way that they've always dreamed of, but they just don't quite know how to get there. And they're not quite sure what it looks like. I get it. That was me. Having the understanding I now have in my life has changed that in ways I can't even put into words. I was actually saying to a client this week, my husband and I just had 2 weeks of leave and we had the best time together. And, and we're, 18 years married, 6.5 years in, I believed we needed to divorce. In fact, I had asked my husband for a divorce. Okay. Because I thought we were incompatible. I thought we were just too different. I thought I was married to the wrong person. I had all of these problems that looked insurmountable to me, and I was very stuck. I was also struggling in my relationship with my eldest son, really struggling, and I did not feel good about myself at all. So, and as far as my faith and trust in life, no, I had none. I thought I was really unlucky, and I did not feel that things were going to work out for me. So I kind of totally bombed out in all areas. Okay. And I was so stuck and so miserable. And I've got to be honest with you, I wasn't sleeping. I was overthinking. My anxiety was through the roof. And I was at a point where I just started having panic attacks for the first time in my life. And if you've ever had a panic attack, it's very debilitating. So there was just fear and disempowerment everywhere. And I couldn't understand how I ended up in that place. I couldn't work it out because I'd tried so hard. And I thought I was a pretty good person, you know? I'm like, and I kept getting caught in this cycle of, I don't deserve this. I don't understand why I am in this place. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, why, right? And I would look at other people that seemed happy and they weren't doing the work that I was doing. And I'm like, that would be another thing. I'm like, I'm doing all this work on myself. They're not doing anything and they're happy. Like, it shouldn't be this hard. Sorry, I'm just going to check some of the comments. Gurnek, I suck at that right now. Well, good for you for recognizing that you got to start somewhere, right? And you're not alone. Okay, you're really, really not alone. What was the pivotal moment that turned me around? Look, it's a great question, Sarah. I think the pivotal moment for me was it was a thought popped into my mind. I had a fresh thought, a thought I'd never had before, right? Now knowing what I know about fresh thinking and the power of it, I didn't quite appreciate it for what it was at that time, but my mind started to open up. I reached that point where, and I think it was because I'd asked my husband for a divorce. And I was just so unhappy and stuck, and just feeling like I just can't. I was just in that I guess in a bit of a survival zombie frame of mind, to be honest, just going through the motions. And a thought popped into my head, and I remember this very clearly. A thought popped into my head, and that thought was, "Is this as good as it gets, Fiona? Is this it for you? Really?" And I remember thinking with every fiber of my being, "No, no." And it wasn't long after that, a friend of mine sent me a video, and I can't even find this video anymore. But a friend of mine sent me a video, and the video really resonated with me, because this person was talking about having a different relationship with your thinking. And I remember thinking, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I'd love to have a different relationship with my thinking, right? I'd love to have a different relationship with my thinking. And I went, but how do I do that? How do I have a different relationship? There's got to be another way. And so I just went searching. And I was lucky enough to come across something that I now teach everybody, that changed everything for me. I started to know where to look for the answer. I started to realize that there was a whole other way of being in the world. I started to get a sense of how good I could feel. And through that lens, I started to see my husband with fresh eyes. I started to learn the power of fresh thinking and insight, something I'd never done before. These are the things that make a massive, massive, massive difference. My mind slowed down. I was a lot more present to the now. I started to see beauty in things I'd never seen before, in the ordinary, everyday moments of life. And as that happened, I started to feel fuller, much, much fuller within myself. And guess what? When you feel full, your expectations of life and others go down. That's a very good thing. That's a very, very good thing, because expectations are the killers of many things. Hence why it's one of the bonus programs I created in my Relatable program. People get tripped up by their own expectations of themselves, of life, of others. And it sucks the life out of everything. So I found myself, as I was fuller, calmer. And from there, everything changed. And I started to teach this to other people. And I saw it change in others, regardless of gender, regardless of age, regardless of past, regardless of anything. It's one of those things that crosses all barriers. Okay? It's an understanding that is true for all of us. Okay? And from there, it just rippled out and rippled out and rippled out in places I can't even, and truly, that I never imagined it would. And I started to see that it starts with me. But I had some practical ways in which to make that happen. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't airy-fairy fluff. It was, I had a practical way in which to approach things that I'd never been given before. And quite frankly, if I can do it, anyone can. Truly. If I can do it, anyone can. Hey, Kirsty Ray, nice to see you, honey. You say the things in my head, Fiona. Yeah, I know. Oh, I love it. Hey, Simon, what about if you're separated now? Resonate with you? Any thoughts? Sorry, Simon, I actually don't understand your question. What about if you're separated now? Resonate with you? Any thoughts? I actually don't. Can you ask that question differently, Simon, because I'm not sure what your question is. Sarah, because I'm in the stuck phase after the divorce settlement, so I've promised myself 2023 is going to be my year of change and positivity, so I think I may need to change my thinking on everything. Is that your relatable course? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, it is. Aaron, I teach all of I'm talking about, I teach in Relatable, okay? All of it is there. And the first two modules will really make what I'm saying much, much, much clearer, because I step you through it step by step. Okay. Aaron, one deeply held value I have is of connection with an intimate other. Listening to the idea, maybe people in my circumstance might never have a family, is not a life I found compelling. No family of my own. I don't have any want to accept that. Well, it's not about accepting that, Aaron. All right. It's about finding peace in your heart. You have to come at life with peace in your heart, Aaron, or you will push things away. All right. So it's not about accepting that. It's finding peace. It's very important, Aaron. And that is absolutely 100% possible. It doesn't mean you're letting go of something. It doesn't mean that you're giving up, because I think a lot of people get that confused. But coming at things with peace in your life brings a far, far different energy to the people around you, and has people respond to you very, 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 very differently. When you see that you are the creator, right? You are the creator of how you want to feel, of how you show up, of so many things. It gives you this sense of empowerment and peace in your heart. You want to be able to approach your life from that place, Aaron. It's very important. And yes, it's possible. Okay? It's very, very good for you and the people around you. You need to have an experience of what I'm saying, I guess, right? Hey, Deezer. Thank you, Fiona. My life is forever changed. Thank you, honey. Julie, I've just started the course and it's amazing, exactly what I've been looking for. Yes, you have, Julie. You just signed up for Relatable this week. I know, that's right, like just a couple of days ago. So I'm just going to check in, because I've got to go in a second. I've got a client waiting for me, well, almost waiting for me. Does anyone have any questions around what I'm saying? Okay, just want to check. Does anyone have any questions around what I'm saying? Relatable is the best thing I've ever done for myself and others. Oh, thanks, Natasha. Fiona is so genuine, has created such an amazing, amazing community. You will wonder why we never got taught this in our younger years. Can we watch these lives later? Yes, you can. Absolutely, Gurnik. You can watch these lives later. So yeah, if you've got any questions around any of the lives that I've or anything that I've said around the live right now, just post it in the comments below, or send it to hello@fionalukeis.com.au, and I will answer it for you on my next live. I'm not sure if I'll be here next Friday. I'm not sure yet. I've got something else going on next week, and I may not be able to be here, but I will definitely be here the week after that. If you want to know more about Relatable, I will. I'll put the link to the program for you now. Sorry, I just was trying to find the link and the link's not working for some reason. So anyway, I'll come back later and I'll put the link here for you. All right, everyone. But yes, if you're wanting to see a completely different way of showing up, of relating to these things, of doing life differently, this is everything that I teach in Relatable is how you do that. All right. And, there's some students online now that will answer any questions that you might have around that. And if you have any other questions, just feel free to email those through to me. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure to spend this time with you. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you really, really soon. Okay. Take care, everyone. Lots of love. Ciao.